compared to idol worship. Okay. We've talked about how anger, as a group of women here, we understand that anger affects us differently than it affects men. We express it differently. Culturally, we're trained to express our anger differently, and this can cause a lot of problems. We spoke last week, Simcha L commented on how anger and depression often go hand in hand. When anger is stuffed without being worked through, it can cause physical problems and so on and so forth. Tonight, we're going to take a jump into a fascinating spiritual aspect of anger, and we're going to be doing several more throughout the rest of the semester. And this one is on anger and money. Last week, I know some of you asked me for the file, the prayer for prayer 59 in the 50th gate, which corresponds to lesson 59 in Likutei Moharan. And I gave over the prayer so that any of you who would like to begin to tap into this lesson could access it right away. Tonight, we're going to start with a central portion of this lesson. Now, I'm going to use the Kitzer, Likutei Moharan, the abridged version, and the reason is because we don't necessarily want to go so mega in depth to this. I really want you to just understand the concept. However, I do want to point out that even though we're using part of a lesson, I had somebody express to me concern twice about not matching everything up and doing a complete lesson and so on and so forth. Rebbe Nachman himself said very clearly, you may bend and twist the pages of my book, and he was referring to Likutei Moharan, as long as you don't violate one sentence of the Shulchan Aruch, as long as you don't violate Jewish law, you can take my book and use it any way you need to in order to improve and become a better person and come closer to Hashem. So whatever you need to do, that's okay. So we don't have to be so rigid that you can't read a sentence from one book and say, okay, if I don't learn the whole thing, it's worthless. I want to encourage every single person here to pick up books, to buy books, to borrow books, to read them. Something is going to penetrate and affect your heart. And it doesn't matter if you know it inside and out. It's nice if you do, but it's okay to begin from wherever you're at. So tonight we're actually going to start from Daled, section 4 of this Torah in Likutei Moharan. Okay, I'm just double checking. Can everybody on the Click meeting hear me? I see Simcha L. Okay. Yes, Shalom Michal. Great. Okay. So Marianne, hi. Good to see you guys. Okay. So Rebbe Nachman says like this. He says, Iker Shmiras Hashem, Shehi Shmiras HaNefesh, Hu Al Yedei, Sheyishmor Atzmoy Mekas. Ki Hakas Pogam Banafsho. The Iker, the main way that a person protects his name, or her name in our case, which is the same thing as protecting the nefesh, the soul, is by guarding himself from kas. Anger is kas. Because anger pugums the nefesh. It schmutzes up the soul. It blemishes the soul. It actually damages the soul. We're speaking about spiritual damage, but we can envision the soul as some kind of entity, and we can envision anger as something that's causing dents and bruises and maybe tearing off pieces of the soul. Okay. The Rebbe continues, and I'm going to paraphrase because we're not going to go into every single sentence, that when a person is able to guard themselves, to protect themselves from anger, and they are able to conquer this impulse to a temper, what happens is that they do this by taking a deep breath, having some patience, and the anger dissolves, they merit wealth. What? Okay, so the concept is very simple. If you are tempted to be angry, you take a deep breath. You're not repressing the anger, you're dissolving it. You're getting rid of the anger, okay? You merit wealth. Your money's coming to you. Why? Because we learned last week, and we learned the week before too, we discussed it a couple of times, that when we have control over our temper, this means that we merit a good name. Our soul, okay, and our name are protected, and even our reputation is protected on a very basic level, okay, on the simplest level. People don't like people who get angry. You have a better reputation if you don't scream and yell at people, okay? On the deep spiritual level, what we're doing to our own soul with anger, we do the same thing. We damage, okay, the souls of others. We cause problems for others when we express anger at them. It's like throwing a fire at them or ice cold water at them. It hurts, okay? It literally hurts them. Now, the Rebbe tells us that when we are able, when we have no temper, when we're calm, when we're easygoing, we are able to attract people to us and do the ultimate thing, which is help other people just like we help ourselves, learn who they really are, learn their purpose in life, and come close to Hashem. An angry person can't really help people. They can't help themselves. They're blocked. Now, what does this have to do with money? Okay, so when the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is provoked, it's provoking you to be angry, the Rebbe says, you have to keep this in mind, that at that moment, we should know that money is supposed to come down to us from on high. It's literally supposed to come down to us. And when we lose our temper, the money doesn't come to us. Now, I want to tell you that in the full Likutei Moharan, again, this is the abridged, it also explains that this could mean that we lose money even. So even if money's not supposed to come down to us, the money we have can be lost. So I was going over this lesson with somebody, I'm learning it with somebody in much more detail than here, and she asked a very good question. She said, well, I'm struggling with financial issues, and I'm a pretty easygoing person. Why am I struggling with financial issues? So we always have to keep in mind that the Rebbe is speaking about this specific instance, but there could be other reasons why you're struggling with finances, other blocks to receiving money. But a biggie is anger, okay? So what happens is that because anger is damaging our soul, okay, the money that's supposed to come to us, okay, can't. We're blemished. We're schmutzed up. Something isn't right. We're not a fitting receptacle. Okay. Now, and again, I want to tell people. Okay, just like I told my young student today, Rebbe Nachman came from a very wealthy family. Rebbe Nachman is Rebbe Nachman's leading student and author of the 50th Gate, which we mentioned earlier, and Likutei Halachos, and a great tzaddik and a teacher, a great teacher. And Rebbe Nachman, towards the end of his life, really struggled with finances. And we know he didn't have a bad temper, and we know he worked on himself tremendously. There are other reasons. But if you have a bad temper, okay, if there's something you want to work on, know that spiritually, that channel that comes down is immediately blocked up by anger. It's as if a puff of of smoke went up and blocked everything that should be coming down to you. Okay? There's a pipeline. Now, when we are able to work on our anger, and again, dissolve it, not stuff it. Everybody here knows what it's like to be angry and to not express it, okay? But you're burning inside. That is not getting rid of anger. That's just not yelling. Okay, there's a difference. Okay, there are two things we have to work on, the anger inside and the yelling. So what we want to understand here is that part of bringing, we've spoken often about how do we really bring kavod to Hashem? How do we really do what we're here supposed to do, okay, is to get everybody excited about the fact that we're spiritual beings, everybody excited about the fact that we're here for a reason and that we can connect with Hashem. We can't do that if we're angry people. Now, we spoke before about how anger manifests. The Rebbe isn't only talking about, okay, he's not only talking about yelling. All right, somebody else, give me another example of how women especially, but men too, but women especially express anger. Okay, anybody? I see somebody's typing. Okay. Being catty. Yes. Okay. Right, being catty, kind of making those little underhanded remarks. Silent treatment. Very good. Whoever, I can't see who said that, but that's what I was thinking. Oh, Marianne, exactly. Silent treatment. Okay. Somebody else is typing. Sarcastic. Yeah. Sarcastic. Guys, I have a biggie. Jealous. Being jealous and envious. It's a form of anger. People don't understand that, but if you think about it, you'll get it. Okay. You're angry because you don't have what someone else has, or you're angry because they have something that you don't feel that they should have. That's a biggie. Okay. Sometimes depression is anger. We spoke about that with our resident social worker, Simcha Yael, last week. Okay. So again, yes, the Rebbe's talking in a simple way about yelling at someone and having a bad temper. Okay, for sure. But we understand that this expresses for women and men too, but very much so for women in ways that may not be overt yelling. Because when a woman yells, when a guy yells, he's scary and he's a bully. When a woman yells, she's called a fishwife and worse, words that we don't want to say. Okay, the connotations are horrible. So what women do is we tend to either turn anger inwards, which isn't healthy. We have to work through that anger, or we do these subtle, what Shulamit Michal said and Marianne said and so on and so forth, these other subtle expressions of anger. Okay. Joanne, hi Joanne. Is deep sadness over not receiving certain monies, is that anger? Hi. Very possibly. I don't know the specific situation, but I will tell you something. There are people whose lives are consumed with bitterness because they thought they were getting an inheritance and they didn't, or they thought something was due to them and they didn't. This smoldering resentment is absolutely a form of anger, resentment and a grudge. Okay. Now, what happens is you use the term deep sadness. Okay, so I don't know if you're referring to you or someone else, so I'm going to assume it's anyone. Okay. Again, when we uncover sadness, sometimes it's sadness. It is. It's depression, it's inertia. We talked about afar, about dust, about the element of dust and the poison of the nachash, the poison of the serpent. We've talked about that even this semester, I think we did. Okay, and that is sadness. But there's usually, or at least often, a component of anger. Okay? All right, Shulamit Michal, what about if you're angry because you're hurt? So, I'm glad you asked, because that's a very big one for women. Okay? I don't think that there's a woman in this class or on this planet who hasn't experienced a very confusing, conflicting feeling because they're hurt. Okay? And that feeling, some very honestly would say, call it anger, and some would turn it in and express it another way. So we're going to, I'm going to tell you a story about anger that may shine a light on the answer to your question. Okay? I want to finish up with the money issue. Okay? And then I'm going to do that in a few minutes, that story. So if you have anger about money issues, okay, what's going on, okay, or sadness about whatever we have about money issues, what's going on is a question of how can I strengthen my immunity? How can I, okay, and everybody faces this in some way or another, because there's almost no one who has everything they want in life. I don't think there's anyone. Okay, and that may be material things. How can I strengthen myself so that instead of being focused on what I shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? What I should have had, what I could have had, okay? How can I focus on why Hashem is doing the absolute best thing for me in this time frame? That's the question. Is Hashem doing good for you or not? Okay. Again, this isn't about stuffing anger, repressing anger, not seeing things clearly. There is a level of reality where there's something you want, you don't have it. But there's a higher level of reality, which is our emunah connection and our bitachon, our trust. We have faith in God. Most of us have faith in God, at least to some extent. Some to more greater extent than others. But do we trust God? What's trusting God? Trusting God is living like you really have emunah. Trusting Hashem is so easy when things are going well. But when things are facing a bumpy patch or when you have a lifelong problem, that's when it really counts. Because otherwise we're fair weather Jews. Okay? There's something to think about. I'm going to have a sip of water. Okay, so I want to leave you with this thought about the anger and the money. For many people, money is a highly motivating factor. We're approaching anger from so many different aspects and ways in this course. Pretty much everybody is motivated by money to some extent. I was having a conversation with someone today. She's here tonight. I won't embarrass her name. About volunteers versus paid employees. People who are getting a paycheck tend to be more motivated than a volunteer. Okay, volunteer starts off with a bang and then often fizzles because it doesn't feel as pressing to them. Often the cause doesn't feel as pressing to them as it would if they were receiving a paycheck. Okay. That's human nature. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's the way we're built. Money is significant. It has a spiritual significance, and it has an effect on our lives. So next time you're going to lose your temper or you're annoyed with something, oh, and in the longer version, or maybe it's in, no, it's in the 50th gate. It's in Likutei Tefillos, in the prayer 59. Again, anybody who didn't get it, I have it scanned in for you, or you can get the book. It says very specifically, anger or irritation. I can't remember the exact word because it's an unusual word. Even if you're irritated, if it's reaching a pitch of some kind beyond, okay, you could be blocking money from coming down to you. We're going to learn more about anger and money as we go on, but I want to tell a story. Okay, we'll probably talk more about anger and money a little bit next week. I want to tell a story that may actually answer some of Shulamit Michal's question if you think about it. Okay, So this is a story that Rebbe Nachman told about his great-grandfather, the Baal Shem Tov. Okay? And those of you who've been to Uman with me last year and who are hopefully coming on our trip, the BRI Women trip this year, we are going to get a chance to go to the amazing, holy gravesite of the Baal Shem Tov. And we're even going to stay overnight there in the hotel. It's a gorgeous hotel, by the way. It's really nice. And they have a yeshiva there and so on and so forth. And we're going to spend a lot of time there this year. So this is the story about the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement and Rebbe Nachman's great-grandfather. In the time of the Baal Shem Tov, I'm going to sort of paraphrase and read a little bit. There was a certain young man who was an outstanding scholar, sharp and was very opposed to the Baal Shem Tov because, as we know, the Misnagdim, the opponents to the Hasidim, they were numerous initially. Okay, today there are hardly any. Everybody, we all take from each other and share from each other. So anyway, this opponent was very against the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov told some of his followers, this young man is a great Talmid Chacham. He's a great Torah scholar, and I want him for the Hasidim. Go get him. So they went and they brought him to meet the Baal Shem Tov. The young man gave in. So he went to meet the Baal Shem Tov. And when he got there, the Baal Shem Tov refused to greet him. He rebuffed him. He pushed him away. So when the young man saw this happen, he got really, really upset. And of course, we know the Baal Shem Tov and Rebbe Nachman were masters of psychology. Okay, they didn't use that word. In this case, reverse psychology. He pushed the young man away, and of course the man went after him, right? Typically, okay? I don't want you, so he went after him. So finally, once he came in, and he came to the Baal Shem Tov with great humility this time, and he was crying, and he was begging to at least have an audience with the Baal Shem Tov. So they met, and they started to have a conversation, and eventually the young man said, you know what, I see this is real Kedusha, this is real holiness, and I'm going to follow you. You have the right path. So the Baal Shem Tov told him that he would be facing tremendous opposition if he wanted to be on the Baal Shem Tov's path. He said that your family, the members of your household, your neighbors, your whole town, and even the entire world is going to be against you, young man. And he said, even the birds are going to oppose you. So the young man said, I don't care. I want to be a chassid of you. So he became a chassid. He went home. And first, his family really opposed him. They yelled at him. They screamed at him. They said, what, have you lost your mind? You're crazy. Don't do it. And he said, no, I'm going to keep on. I can't. You can't tear me away from him. And then his neighbors, and then his town, and everybody was against this poor guy. They were calling him crazy for being a chassid of the Baal Shem Tov, and so on and so forth. Finally, he just didn't care. He went outside to pray, and he was praying with tremendous tefillah, tremendous attachment to Hashem, and great joy, because this is the path of the Hasidim. Whatever else we have, the main thing is simcha, joy. And he was so uplifted, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a pheasant flew right at his face, and he brushed it away. He went back to daven, and the bird kept coming and flying in his face while he was davening. And he became so angry that he said, I'm going to go get an axe. I'm going to chop off that bird's head. And then all of a sudden, he remembered what the Baal Shem Tov said, that even the birds would oppose him. This is an amazing thing, because the Baal Shem Tov predicted, Baal Shem Tov said, okay, your family's going to oppose you, your neighbors are going to oppose you, your town is going to oppose you. Then he said, The birds will even oppose you. This is proof, okay, that the Baal Shem Tov knew what he was talking about. So Rebbe Nachman said like this. He said, the story shows us how many different trials a person has to endure if he wants to come closer to Hashem, find out his purpose in life, develop and grow spiritually. He endured insults and he was rebuffed by the Baal Shem Tov, and then he endured insults from his family, his friends, and so on and so forth. And then even a bird, okay, attacked him while he was praying. And Rebbe Nachman explains, okay, that the Baal Shem Tov gave him a remedy beforehand because he said that the birds would even attack him. Okay, now, this is a very great thing. This person, this young man, was able to diffuse his anger. Why is this relevant? Because what Shalomit Michal's question, so I'm going to explain it. Because this young man was fortunate in that he had a hint that everybody was going to be out to get him. He was prepared for it. Okay. But there's a bigger lesson for all of us, and it's something that the Rebbe often speaks about in a variety of ways, and that is whatever happens to us in our lives comes from Hashem. And another person who hurts you, okay, even though they have free will, okay, even though they have free will, it's true. And even though they chose to hurt you, they were just acting as a messenger from Hashem to test you, to give you a kapara, an atonement for something. I don't know the reason. Okay, that I don't know. But we can be assured that ultimately the source of everything is from Hashem. So why get angry? Why get angry? Now, I'm saying this as somebody who's been working on my own anger issues for years. Okay? Okay? I grew up. I've had a temper in my life. Something I'm working on. And I've gotten a lot better. I'm proud of myself. And I also know that people, even people who have soul-destroying anger, like we spoke about in the beginning of the class, I have seen them work on this and get over it. Okay? There is something amazing about letting go of an anger, a hurt, a resentment, a grudge, because these are all anger. Okay? What are you letting go of? You're letting go of the fact that you're really not seeing that Hashem is in charge. Before we go to sleep at night, I highly recommend that everybody takes a few minutes to say the prayers, the Shema al-Hamita, the Shema on the bed that we say before we go to sleep. And in those prayers, there's a beautiful prayer at the beginning, and I actually love this prayer. It's helped me over the years, for many years. And it begins with, I forgive everybody, and I ask that nobody is punished on my account. We're not allowed to hate another person in our heart. That doesn't mean even hate consciously. We're not allowed to have a grudge or a resentment. This is the Torah said so. This is what the Torah says. This is part of the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisrael, okay, of loving each other. But even more than that, it's, again, the sages said that anger is akin to idol worship. Why? Because when we get angry about something, we're saying Hashem exists except here in this thing that I'm angry about. Okay, now, I hope that began to answer your question, Shalom Michal, because it's a common question, and it's not an easy. I'm not going to pretend it's an easy process. Good. Okay. I'm not saying it's easy. And there is a difference between not being angry and forgiving. These are all things we have to work through at various levels. I'm just dealing with the anger piece of it, okay, because then we can go further and further with this. The anger piece, what do we get angry at? Do we get angry because we stub our toe? I mean, most people don't get angry over that. Some people do. Okay. No, we get angry when other people provoke us. When this young man, when this bird was flying at him, but when something's coming from outside at us, or we feel we didn't get what we wanted, or we feel, how come their life looks different than my life? Okay. That, again, is the kind of anger that's very revealing to us. It's showing us we need to work on our emunah, and there's not a person on this planet, okay, who doesn't. We need to. We all need to. Okay. Doesn't mean, again, it doesn't mean, and I've mentioned this before, that we allow someone to abuse us. You don't have to do that. You don't have to throw yourself down and say, kick me, walk all over me. But what it does mean is that if this does occur, you can remove yourself from it, that you understand that, yes, the person has responsibility, but it's from Hashem. It's from Hashem. Because we are monotheists. Jews are monotheists. We don't have a dual God. God forbid. Okay. Teresa asks, is it wrong to be hurt? Is hurt the same as anger? Is hurt also from Hashem? So I did discuss it earlier. I don't know if you actually heard, but you're asking questions that, yeah, sure. Hurt is often anger. I wouldn't say it's always anger. It depends on the situation. You're going to have to really figure that out and work through it. Is hurt from Hashem. Okay, so is feeling hurt from Hashem? So your emotions, Hashem gives us free will. He gives us the choice to respond and react to the world. This is our choice, okay? If you are, okay, whether you are totally free to do whatever you want or whether you're sitting in a 2x4 box, how you respond to the situations Hashem gives you is where your free will comes into play, okay? Does everybody understand the difference? You may not have free will to get exactly and do exactly what you want, but you have free will to say, this is from Hashem. How am I going to deal with this now? What's the best, healthiest way for me to deal with this situation in my life? Okay. This is part of our relationship with Hashem. We have to figure this stuff out. And we don't have to be philosophical about it. Okay. We have to ask these black and white questions that Teresa is asking. Okay. Now, does anyone have any questions? Because as you know, we're changing the format of the class. It's a half an hour, and now we're going to questions. If you are on Facebook, I can't see you, so I don't know if you have questions, but anybody who's signed into here, into the Click Meeting. Okay, are there any more questions? And I hope I answered Teresa's question. I don't think I see. Is anybody typing? Let me see. Nope. Teresa's typing now. Yes. Okay, good, Teresa. And Teresa, I don't know if you signed in late. Go back and, watch sort of in the middle of the class. I kind of addressed this because Shalom Michal asked a similar question, and I tried to answer her by answering all those 3 questions. Okay, does anybody have any questions about anger and money, first of all? Okay, or anger in general? Nope. Okay. All right, so next week we're going to continue with some more lessons of Rebbe Nachman related to anger. And we're going to continue the conversation about how to make sense of anger, how to work through it, and how to understand really the underlying message here is, and all of this, the underlying message is that the stronger our emunah, the stronger our faith, the stronger our bitachon, the stronger our trust in Hashem, or bitachon in Ivrit, the stronger our trust in Hashem, the more we remain calm, tranquil, and settled. Okay? All right, everyone. So I hope you have a wonderful evening. I'm going to sign out of the Facebook page now. See if I can figure this out. Okay, let me see. Okay, and then I'm going to say goodnight to everyone. Okay, thank you. Good night, everybody. It's wonderful seeing you all. Okay, let me see. I'm having so much problems with this new format.